Okay, guys, so I'm here already having a great conversation with Ann Tuccillo and her great son Bryan from Pawfectly Delicious Dog Treats. Now, is the name Ann Pawfectly Delicious Dog Treats or just Pawfectly Delicious?
Well, our official name for the nonprofit is Pawfectly Delicious Dog Treats, but it's easier just to say Pawfecly Delicious if you don't want to get, a mouthful of words. So Pawfecly Delicious is totally fine.
No, I was just thinking about because a lot of people, when they see this, will want to Google you. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay.
Well, our website is pawfeclydelicious.org.
Dot
So
org.
that's
Excellent. Okay, let's get that out. So we're going to jump right in. And thank you, and Bryan, thank you guys so much for giving me the this time. We're going to have our group interview tomorrow, but I did want to spend a few minutes with you all today and film this because you formed this business from scratch, and it's been done. It's become not just a national, but from what I understand, an international sensation. Uh, just tell us quickly, how did you form it, and of utmost importance, why? And before we start, Bryan, how you doing? I heard you were very busy this morning.
Yeah,
how are you doing today?
good.
Yeah. What were you
Yeah.
doing? Tell Dr. T what you were doing just before this session.
I went to the
You
gym.
went to the gym.
Well, as I said earlier, he's a man after my own heart. I should have went myself. I'll be honest, I didn't go. So Bryan, kudos to you, buddy. You're
Yeah, I
doing
didn't go
it.
either, so we're in the same boat.
Well, Bryan's not, so let's do that, okay,
Yes,
Bryan? There you
yes.
go, buddy.
So Brian's my plus one today, so he's riding along with me on this journey, and that's how I kind of started it all. He's the inspiration behind the what and the why for Perfectly Delicious Dog Treats. Brian is now 34 years old. He was born with some complications. We didn't really know what they were manifesting from, but at age 4, he was diagnosed with mitochondrial disease. The name of his condition is Lee's disease, and it's a energy production deficiency. Our mitochondria are the kind of like the conduits for producing energy within our cells so we can all thrive and live and things. And Bryan has had a problem with that since birth, and that has caused a multitude of different disabilities in terms of vision, muscle tone, coordination, speech, um, walking, being able to, take care of his activities of daily living and so forth. However, he is a miracle man because the doctors predicted he wouldn't live till age 10, and he just celebrated his 34th birthday last.
Woo!
So
Excellent.
he's a miracle in and of itself. But as most parents who are raising children with disabilities as they get older, we had we had a wonderful school system. Bryan received services all the way up through age 22, and the teachers do a really great job while they're in school and trying to set them up for success once they transition out of their special education services. In Virginia, where we live, it's 22. However, there is a huge, huge gap in terms of what is available for students like my son in the real world versus what they kind of receive their vocational
Yes.
training and volunteer kind of work as they transition out of high school. So I was working full time. I was a full time working mama all the way for
And,
raising both my children.
and just quickly, you were, I understand, for the Department of Education. You were
Yes,
working in the
that's
education field.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I worked in higher education and federal student aid. So I worked with colleges and universities, ensuring that they were, paying students the correct amount of federal aid that they were awarded. But I had a lot of colleagues who knew Bryan since birth, and they always, were very supportive. And one of my colleagues in particular, Holly, who's on our board, still to this day, really encouraged me to try and think outside the box and maybe come up with a some type of activity or some type of business that Bryan could work at when he got out of school and was no longer having 8 hours of time that was being occupied by him being in school and all of those activities.
And
And
that time, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make that time was actually when he was 22, right?
right,
Okay.
right.
So,
Mhm.
he was involved with the Department of Education, the public system there until 22. Excellent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He received special education services through his, IEP, which is what most students with disabilities are working with when they're in
Yeah.
school. And then he, at 22, school system says, goodbye, we're done with you. You have to go out and now be an adult. And so with that in mind, that kind of set the catalyst for us to start trying to think of something for him to do. My friend Holly recommended I start a business. At the time, we were kind of contemplating getting a dog. We had been a dogless family up until this point, and she had been baking these wonderful ginger cookies for years and sending them to us as Christmas gifts, decorated and very fancy and things like that. And when we did get a dog, that was 2014. He's actually lying right down next to us. His name is Mr. Friday. She said, you better watch it. My dog Tucker loves those cookies. I hang them on the Christmas tree and he eats them right off the Christmas tree. And that kind of like all of a sudden she's like, oh no, I know what you guys can do. You can use that recipe of mine and you can use that and roll them out. Bryan, and you can make them in your kitchen. You can roll them out, bake them, and you can sell them as dog treats. I know dogs would love them. And so what started out as kind of like just like a little kind of that would really be funny. I took it and we got the recipe and we started making them in the kitchen and rolling them out, Bryan and I, and then we would pack them. And, we had some kind of, I would say at the time, lame packaging and stuff like that. But we were selling them to friends and family because I knew that they wouldn't reject us at first. And then
Listen, that strategy, listen.
yeah. And that kind of started taking off. But, doing something in your kitchen on a very small scale, and then thinking about all these things like I need a trademark, I need a business license, I need to be, I need all these things that, I'm a social scientist. I'm not a business person. My husband is the business person. So he kind of guided us through the process. But he was like, hey, we're getting close to retirement soon. Like, if you want to run with this is cool. I'll support you. I'll be on the board and everything. He said, but, you got to there's got to be a side hustle for this side hustle so that because we can't like throw all of our retirement into this, thing. And so I said, okay. So I had a little clothing business on the side that I sold women's clothing in addition to my full-time job. And I took the money from that and I put it aside so I could pay for the trademark through the Patent and Trademark Office. We had to get our treat analyzed in the state of Virginia. It has to be sent to a lab. I wanted to do everything right so that there was no question of our legitimacy, kind of like from the beginning. And so Bryan got spared a lot of that kind of like paperwork. He was more of the, more of this is why we're doing it. And what I wanted then to do once we got all of kind of the legalities and all the compliance and all of the stuff kind of set is that I wanted it to be a charity. I wanted it to be a nonprofit because this was nothing in my heart. It's not about the money. It's about being able to provide the opportunity for Bryan and also for other people just like him.
So quick question while we're on this, and it's fascinating to hear. So anybody out there listening or that will be listening that has an idea of doing a nonprofit, two questions. How long did it take, like you said, to go through the legalities? Just to, 7, 8, just to let people know it wasn't like a few weeks. And then, or was it a few weeks maybe? And then did you bring in like legal help from the state, or did you have somebody help you with forming it?
Those are great questions. I actually was able to, I think working for the government, I kind of had a better sense of confidence in terms of navigating kind of the bureaucracy. So, I did my research and I figured, it's actually, if you go onto the IRS website, you can do a search and you can figure out how do I become a nonprofit? And most agencies like benevolent societies, things like that are doing public good, it's actually fairly easy to fill out the forms and, state what your purpose is and things like that. It doesn't cost you anything to become a nonprofit from an IRS standpoint. And I would say probably that took about 2 to 3 months. And we got we officially became a nonprofit in October of 2018. Of course, I've been setting the stage for this since 2016 or so, all coordinating in between my official retirement from my public servant career in September of 2017. So a lot of things were happening all at one time. We got the nonprofit status, but in order to be a nonprofit and to do it the right way, you also want to have a board so that you can have the guidance of other people who might have experience in different fields, such as legal, such as fundraising, such as business management, accounting, things like that. And it was very important for me to have parent representation for people, not just myself and my husband, Bob, who were the parents of Bryan, but we also wanted to draw in other families who might have some skin in the game, so to speak, who would want to see the success of this nonprofit because they know that it would be benefiting their son or daughter as well. So we formed an initial board. We got incorporated in the state of Virginia. I think the incorporation, the state kind of process was a little bit more daunting. Rather than kind of just applying for the nonprofit status, because there's, in order to be able to raise funds, there's paperwork for that. In order to, then you got to get your business license, and then you got to we're a dog treat company, even though our treats are human grade, but we had to get feed license, and we had to get a product registration, and all of those things. And it just took some time to kind of read through things and understand the process. And like I said, this was not anything that I had envisioned that I would be doing in retirement. But once we kind of got that all kind of situated, we just started building very small because at the time we didn't really have any money to pay anybody because we were just new. We were starting out with a very small group. We had 4. Who did we have? 4 at the time. So you and I think 3 or 4 other young men who had actually been a part of our special needs Boy Scout troop. And I thought to myself, gosh, when they get to be older, what's going to happen to them? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? And so we reached out and spoke with their parents and said, hey, this is kind of this idea, this model we've created. Would your son like to be a part of this? And they were like, absolutely, because there's nothing worse, Dr. T, than knowing that your child who has skills, knowledge, and abilities, just different than other people, that they're not given that opportunity and they're sitting at home kind of wasting away watching mindless TV and things that don't serve them. And so they were so eager to have their family member engaged. And so that's how we started. We found a parish hall with a church kitchen that they donate. And to this day, they still do. God bless St. Luke's Episcopal Church. And we started with those 4 young men, Bryan being one of them. And we just started rolling out the dough. We engaged a vocational training program in our local school district to be our dough makers during the school year so that those young people were engaged and getting job training as well. And so, it all came together. It was hard as hell. Let me be frank here.
Yes.
But it came together because I think it was just it was the plan that I was destined to follow.
Right.
I don't know any other way. I could have just said, I just want to be retired and put Bryan in a day program, but I know what he's capable of. I mean, he's a little bit chill right now, but he knows things. He's worldly. He's been around. We've taken him places. He's been to Greece. He's been to Malta. He's been to places. He wants to be productive, just like the rest of the people that work for us. They have something to offer. And
Yes.
Businesses are really missing out on an opportunity by not engaging with this population, by not investing. It takes work to try and make your work site inclusive. But once you do, and you give them the proper tools and the training, they take off like a bird in flight, and they are just as capable as anybody else if they're just given that opportunity. And we like to say, we give disabled adults the first chance at having a job that pays. Because
Right.
Bryan, like a lot of his peers, he was maybe a little bit ahead of the schedule, but most of the people who are coming to work with us have never had a paid job, and most of them are in 22 or 23. I don't know about you, but my first job, Anne Marie and I were talking about this. I started babysitting when I was like 13. I got my first real paycheck. I worked at a dry cleaners or some random job when I was 16. These people, they haven't even had that opportunity to feel like what it feels like to get your first paycheck until they're, 22 to 23 or older.
Right.
So,
Well, I just want to it is a wonderful cause, and it's so colorful. When I was doing my homework on you and Bryan and the team, everything is so colorful, and and I love animals, so of course I would. I have two cats and a dog, both of which, well, both of the cats are on the bed. The dog is currently under the bed. I live in a studio apartment like most people in Manhattan, but again, I love animals. But you're absolutely right, and there are companies, very few. You have corporations out to here in America, and very few have really put the time and energy and effort into hiring the disabled population. But for example, one coming to mind that we work close, Chase, for example, has done wonderful with their disabled employees, and but they understand how much they bring to the workforce. But I do want to ask just two more questions. And fascinating story, Anne. Again, I'm so happy to hear it first person. By the way, you said Anne Marie. Most people that know Disabilities Redefined know Anne Marie is a friend of mine. She also has another show here in New York. Her name is Anne Marie Offer, Something to Offer. Check it out on MNN, along with my show and everybody else's on New York TV. But Anne Marie is a great person, and that is your cousin.
right.
So when you threw in Anne Marie, we do want to say Anne Marie is just not some enigma out there.
Yeah. No, she is doing something on her own, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
she's got the longest running show at MNN right now, so she's
That's
quite
right.
legendary. Um, Somewhere when I was reading up on you guys, you were saying that a lot of the skills they bring, now if I'm paraphrasing,
Okay.
but a lot of the skills they bring themselves.
Hmm.
And I've seen videos of like making the dog biscuits and things like that. And so is it a situation where when they show up to work in this wonderful kitchen in the church that you all have, do they bring, oh, I'm just thinking about maybe a roller that they've already used, or do they bring their own equipment with them, or do you all have equipment ready made? Uh,
What, you want to answer that question,
yeah,
Brian? Go ahead, lean in.
you go ahead.
No, you say it. You knew exactly what you wanted to say.
yeah, he knew what I was getting to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did.
We have our own world, and it's ca
Calibrated.
calibrated
Hmm.
to
So that we have people
thank you, Bryan. Thank you.
people come to us basically when a new person comes, we have them do a 3-month internship. So we give them an opportunity for them to check out whether or not this is a good fit for them and whether or not they're a good fit for us. And through that 3-month training program, we introduce them to all the different tools that we have to help them set themselves up for success. So the rolling that you saw of the dough there, we buy special rolling pins to ensure that the dough is rolled to a specific thickness. You see our packers, they use certain templates so they can count out the treats, so they know, they line them up on the template so they know exactly how many of those treats have to go in a bag. We have special, like, they're actually French fry things that you would see at McDonald's, but those fit into our bags. And so as they're taken off the template, they're put into those particular tools, and then the treats go right into the bag.
Right.
So we've even worked with an industrial engineer at NYU who's created some adaptive tools. So some of our employees who can only use one hand, maybe due to cerebral palsy or something like that, they can actually load the treats. We use these special heart-shaped treats that we do custom packages for our hotel partners, and they can stack those treats in there and use this one arm and be able to push that in the bag and lift it up and pack it. So we want to feel them out in terms of, do they have kind of like the focus or the physical strength or or the, the focus, the physical strength, the endurance to be able to do this type of work, but we set them up with the tools so that they can succeed. So they don't have to bring anything to the job other than a good attitude and their willingness to work and to learn. And I feel like part of what makes us so special is that we're constantly learning, and it's progress, not perfection. Everybody makes mistakes. We don't instruct, we remind, so that they're constantly feeling like they're valued, and that there's nothing wrong that they can do. They might have to relook at things, or if we see a treat that's too thick on the tray, what do we say to them?
What?
When somebody's treat is too thick on the tray, what do we say to them?
They have to take it off.
They have to take it off, and what do they have to do?
Roll it again.
Roll it again. Yeah. So that
Just like any other job, you have to, do it the right way.
exactly. And that's, I think, one of the things too that I feel is really important. Maybe it's that reminding and trying to set our employees up for success, because that I don't want this to sound offensive to anybody, but there's nothing worse than when you package a product and you put so much into it, and a customer opens it and they're not wowed by it, or there's something wrong with it. And the first thing I don't want somebody to say is, well, what do you expect? They were made by disabled people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I want our employees to be held to standards that they can be proud of the product that they're putting out the door, that we all can be proud of it. I think I would like just to share one fact, and you probably know this in your work and your studies and just being involved in the community, but the employment gap of disabled adults who are of working age, only 38% of working age adults with a disability are employed versus 75% of non-disabled adults in this country. There is, again, like I said, untapped potential, but also, to me, as a human and as a mother and somebody who has kind of lived this journey, and I think I represent a family members, guardians, parents, whatever, we have to do better. We have to do better at providing that dignity that everybody, I feel like most people want to work. Most people want to feel like they make a contribution. And I think in the disabled community, and I know in my heart, everybody wants to feel included, that they're a part of something, that they have a community. And I think I'm proud to know that we've created a community at Pawfectly Delicious where everybody has that sense of feeling included, they're heard, they're seen, and and they get a paycheck, and they can contribute to society and their community.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing the story, because I love that you were so honest. People get into this kind of thing and they run across this and that, and paperwork feels like you're, and you're here and you're here and you're here. But I think if you just keep working at it like you did, it will come together. So it was great. I enjoyed doing my research on you guys. It was really good. I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation tomorrow, but I have a tendency of talking too much, so I'm going to stop now. I think Bryan and I have that in common, I have a feeling. So so we will all be in touch tomorrow. Now, Bryan, will you be back with us tomorrow?
Can take him out of the kitchen for a little bit, but he also feels, as I do too, about giving his other teammates, their time, to share. But I'll try and bring him down to say hello. But I think the folks that you'll talk with tomorrow, I think are fascinating in and of themselves. Yeah. Really, I spoke with all their family members and said, talk with them about making sure that they're comfortable and feeling like kind of going over some information for them to share. But I'll have Bryan make a cameo appearance for you too.
Well, just so long as I can say hello to him, then he can get.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Okay.
Are you a football fan?
He's asking if you're a football fan.
Not really. I'm more of a tennis fan. I really enjoy tennis. I played tennis for a while here in New York City. I played with the USTA League for a while, very short time, which is just a regional, local, but I'm not very big on football, unless there's something going on with the news or whatever, or somebody is, like Taylor Swift's husband kind of brought a little, bit to New York, football or something.
Yeah.
Unless it's something related to pop culture or something of that nature. I love pop.
No, Brian, that's okay. It's
But
okay.
Panthers, no, I'm not deep into football. No, no, no. I couldn't explain it at the levels and what they go through and how you get to the two teams at the end. I don't know anything about all of that. No. So
Well,
sorry about that, Brian.
consider yourself lucky because you get all your Sundays back.
Yes. And before we say goodbye, one of my little